Okay, welcome to the Planning Board meeting. The proceedings of Planning Board meeting of August 27, 2024. These proceedings will be videotaped and rebroadcast by Area 58 TV. If we could, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for our first order of business, on the application of Peter Sprague, requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to section 2230.C, 3100, 4341, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw, located at lot number 2A, Ricketts Pond Drive in Carver, Mass. Assessors map 32, lot 1-2A, in the Spring Street Innovation Zoning District, to construct an approximately 7,440 square foot light industrial building with associated parking areas and utilities to accommodate the proposed use. This is going to be continued until 9/10/24, so we just need to agree.
I'll make a motion to continue the application of Peter Sprague requesting a special permit and site plan review for Lot 2A, Ricketts Pond Drive in Carver, until September 10th, 2024, 7 p.m., Room 1, Town Hall, Carver Town Hall.
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Yasky.
Aye.
Aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
And Kevin Robinson says aye. Moving on, other business. A request for a one-year extension for subdivision completion. Assessors map 32, lots 1-1 through 1-6 for Ricketts Pond Business Park subdivision off Spring Street in the Spring Street Innovation District. Mr. Opachinski, how are you tonight?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you.
Here for another one-year extension. If you'd like me to go into the details of why I need the extension, I can do that. Might take a little time.
Is there a way that you could at least brief us as to why?
Sure. I've been delayed on, mostly by Save the Pine Barrens group and a group of 10 residents. They've appealed the Conservation Commission's order of conditions. Mass DEP overruled that. They sided with Carver Conservation Commission. Pine Barrens Group and their infinite wisdom decided to appeal that. And it's been tied up with the DEP for well over a year now.
So it's being tied up legally?
Legally, yep. And so I can't build on Lot 3. That in turn caused a delay on the building of Lot 4 because the buyer was not willing to move forward until he knew where Lot 3 was going to go with DEP. Now we have a fairly good feeling that they'll lose their case as they normally do. They're just obstructionists. They don't care about winning or losing. It's just holding up developers from doing what they have the right to do on fully approved projects.
Okay.
And like I said, it's when I have all the buildings built there and I'm no longer obstructed, I'll be glad to finish the road.
Okay.
And I have a very good track record building in Kingston. Always finish our roads at the appropriate time, and now's not the appropriate time to finish. There's just too much construction left there. If we were left alone, all the buildings would be built in this park, and everybody would be very happy, but it's not the case.
Okay. Thus the reason for the extension.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there's too much construction still to happen there, and if I were to go ahead and finish the roads, they're subject to damage, and I'm not going to be on the hook for that.
Okay, I think Mr. Shea has a question for
What
you.
needs to be done to complete the subdivision?
Finish coat of asphalt on the roadway, and I think Mr. Bott had mentioned street trees. And I'm not willing to plant street trees at this point because all they do is become targets for people to back over in their construction vehicles. I've done over 300 house lots in my developing career, and I bet you 10%, 20% get run over ultimately if they're planted before the construction is complete.
So you need to finish the pavement.
Finish the pavement, finish the sidewalks, very last thing we'll do is street trees.
Okay. All right,
And I have a substantial bond posted to cover all this.
all right. Mr. Butt, do we have to open this up to the public?
Well, it's not a hearing, it's, sorry, Mary Ann. It is not a hearing.
It's not a
It's the
hearing,
board's, it's the chair's discretion.
Okay. All right. I don't think there's anybody in the public that wants to come forward and ask, but I will put it out there. Anybody? All right. Well, with that being said, I would like to ask for a motion to extend this.
What date is it currently expiring at?
October 10th, I believe?
Yeah, 10/10/24.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be proactive. I don't want to wait till the last minute, but I just,
Sure.
we don't have a hearing scheduled with DEP until next week, and the judge could take months to rule on that.
But your goal would be to try to have it done by October 10th of 2025.
Hopefully, if there's no more appeals.
Okay. All right. Well then.
If there's another appeal, we can thank the Pine Barrens Group and their followers that road's not getting done.
I don't think we need commentary. There's nobody here to defend themselves. I think we can
Oh,
just-
I'd be surprised if there
I think we can
isn't.
stick to the facts.
Yeah, those are the facts. We've been delayed by the Pine Barrens Group and their
By
10
legal action.
followers who drink the Kool-Aid.
Legal action would be sufficient.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to leave it at it's a legal action, and I'm looking for a motion
I
to
will make
extend
the
this.
motion to approve a one-year extension for subdivision completion for Ricketts Pond Business Park subdivision until October 10th, 2025.
May I ask a question first?
Certainly.
So if there was a way to accept the motion the way it is,
Yeah.
and I'm not it comes forward before that date, pardon me, is that possible that, that can happen?
Doubt, what, to complete by the fall of '25? I doubt it.
What if,
I just know that it's very slow going now on Lot 2A for Peter Sprague. From what I understand, there were 2 months prior that his plans were submitted and still no comments back from the engineer. So that's not helping things.
That's not correct, by the way.
Well,
That's not correct.
okay. I just know when he submitted plans and how long it's taken, and now it's delayed again. So those are just things that hold up a subdivision from being completed. I don't know what to tell you. And then it depends on the economy. If Peter decides not to move forward with that building right away, that could delay things. If the DEP holds up decisions and there's another appeal, which could happen, that could delay things on Lot 3. I just don't have any control over the legal system, how it moves at a snail's pace.
right.
And people keep filing appeals, it'll just delay the subdivision further.
Thank you.
All right, so you got a motion, but no second yet.
Ellen she was going to second, but she had a question.
So second, yes.
All right. Further discussion. Mr. Gasky?
Aye.
Aye.
Ellen Sordillo says aye.
And Kevin Robinson says aye.
Thank you very much. Well,
You're welcome.
believe me, I want to get this done probably more than anybody. It's to my benefit and the town's benefit, so as quick as we can, we will get that road finished. It's
Good luck.
my intention. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in ahead of time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, moving on to JCM Solar, a floating layout. I'm excited to hear about this, Ms. Stearns.
Okay. That's great.
Is this like sanding, floating sanding?
What do you mean?
When they sand with a barge.
Oh, this is on a pond, not the bog.
Oh,
So
that's right.
slightly different. I'll just introduce myself, even though this is an informal discussion, just for the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas, and with me are both representatives of Renewable Energy Partners, Development Partners, Hank Rumet and Tom Mellahan. Thank you tonight for your time. This is something that we thought we would just do informally to come in before you. We're in the midst of preparing our applications for these two projects, and we thought we'd come talk to the board and just give you an overview and open it up for any preliminary discussion or questions before we finalize our application packages. So it's a little bit hard to see. I also have an aerial photo behind that, but this is a site owned by 80 Makepeace off of, I guess we'll say off of Cranberry Road. There are multiple ways into this very large site. This is the zoning map. I'll just come up and, it's teensy, but just to
Do we actually have a name of the pond?
No, it's unnamed. It's an agricultural reservoir that's on the property.
No, I think it's important to know that.
Yes.
It's basically man-made.
Yes, it is. And that is one of the stipulations under the SMART program for these prospective floating arrays, that it must be a human-made pond. The state has suggested types of ponds, like stormwater ponds, wastewater ponds, agricultural reservoirs, that's called out specifically, that are human-made. So these floating projects are not allowed at the state level on naturally occurring ponds, which leaves a handful on agricultural lands that are potentially viable for this type of project. On this site, it's partially within the industrial district. This is, part of the site is right near the Ocean Spray receiving plant off of Federal Road, but, you know, again, it's hundreds of acres. Okay, thank you.
The pond is hundreds of acres?
No, the site. The pond,
This is Ocean Springs parcel here.
Hank, you have to tell them who you are before you talk.
Hank Quebec with Renewable Energy Development Partners, one of the developers. So this is Federal Road here in Carver. This is the Ocean Spray lot, basically. This is, I think, Sarah, like a 600-something acre parcel.
Yes.
Overall, actively farmed by Makepeace for cranberry operations. And this is a 13-acre agricultural reservoir, and this is a 3 or 4 acre-ish agricultural reservoir, both of which serve the cranberry bog operations. So that's just for orientation. The scale of this thing is
200.
So, you know, inches, 200 feet on this scale, so we're, you know, a couple thousand feet away. The Cranberry Road's up here, ballpark. So both reservoirs are located well interior to the property. This part of the property up to about, everything below this line here is industrial zone, and then everything above this line is residential agriculture. So one of the reservoirs is in industrial zone area and the other is in RA.
Just a quick question, when I'm looking at the map Ms. Stearns handed us, the red line does not include the lower reservoir, the line delineating, I'm guessing, the project site, or?
That's, I think it's the property line. Let me look at what I just gave you. Yeah, I'll give it back to you in a second. The lower reservoir is this sort of linear.
Oh,
canal
okay,
here.
I was looking lower than, okay.
Yeah, it's right here. So the river is the Plymouth Carver town line. So
Okay.
this is all Plymouth. Cranberry Road is up here. It's way, you know, you drive in through the bog roads. This is the 13-acre, give or take,
Yeah.
reservoir, and then this little linear feature is the 4-acre.
Are you gonna use singular access Or are you gonna use dual access, one for each site?
What do you mean?
Are you gonna use one access from Cranberry Road? Or are you
Oh.
gonna use two accesses from Cranberry?
Well,
to
there are multiple ways in. The Federal Road entrance is more than likely going to be the active construction entrance. And something that we're, talking to public safety in both Plymouth and Carver about. So we'll just, whatever the preference is, but I think it will more than likely be a Federal Road construction access, and then work with the landowner about, preferred way in for longer term operation and maintenance. Do you want me to point out?
Yeah, can you point
Okay.
out the two?
Yep, so this is the 13-acre reservoir, and down
Okay.
here, between these linear bogs,
This
is the
skinny.
4-acre, linear reservoir, that's water.
What will be the total megawatt coverage?
2-ish?
Yeah, we're still in little preliminary design, so we're around 2 megawatts,
Combining both of them?
combining both of them.
Is it gonna have battery storage associated with it?
No, sir.
And one of the things that when it comes up is gonna be
Con,
asked-
can you speak to the
Oh,
microphone?
I
I'm-
didn't even realize it was.
I am certain that no one can hear you out there.
One of the things that I personally will be asking for is an apron off the road so that the trucks aren't crushing the road edge, because we've had a lot of problem, and it helps to knock off the loose dirt.
Definitely.
Yeah, we typically would put a, what do they call it, anti-tracking pad between the road and the project site, so as the trucks drive over, the dust falls off. I think there's an existing paved apron off of Federal. I'm not quite sure about the access off of
Yeah, you can
Cranberry.
see that it's paved down here. I think it will just be a question of where the preferred access is, and that is something we can delve into when we actually
Sure.
file.
And then, of course, what Eversource, what is going to be your connection? Is it going to be underground, or are we going to be looking at telephone poles being brought in? What is their interconnection going to be to this? And I'm assuming that they're going to be tied together.
Correct.
Yes, and this plan, while in draft form, actually shows the proposed interconnection route to Federal Road. I'm going to say it's underground to a point.
Yes. I can,
Maybe you can point where it goes above pink.
underground from this array and this array, all the way to this common point here. And then there's some existing wooded area, like this would be a cleared wooded corner through the wooded area out to Federal Road, and those would be on utility poles.
Now, why would you do that? I mean, because our bylaws require that it be underground, so why would?
It's just, we'd certainly put it underground if we had to. Frankly, it's just cheaper in that area, and you can't see those from the road. So anything you can see from the road outside of the poles that the utility would require us to put overhead, and we would put
So,
underground.
right,
If
and-
it was visible from right away.
Well, it's not about visibility. It's underground unless the utility requires otherwise, our bylaw. Thank you.
The way that we have structured our draft application is just mirroring the large ground-mounted solar section of the zoning bylaw. So this project will comport with all of the things that we are required to do for a more typical ground-mounted array as well, so.
What will the materials be used to construct the floating array?
So the vendors we're working with, the floats themselves are made out of HDPE, basically like industrial grade milk cartons, modular. They get assembled on shore and then floated out into position.
Of course, they're organic, right?
No, I don't think they're organic. No, they're high density polyethylene. And then the panels themselves get installed, mounted to those floats, and then the cables run off the floats to the electrical equipment that's on the ground or on the shore. And then the floats are anchored with mooring lines from the floats to the shoreline.
Could
You
you,
get it.
could you come up to the mic?
Yeah, it's, I don't know if the board's familiar with the small operating floating project that's, where is it, sir? On the north of Purchase Street?
This Steve Ward's property.
Yes. So it's similar in construction to that project.
I think that was
I'm not aware of that.
That was a pilot project through UMass Amherst. I think we approved it about year
was
and a
a
half
while
ago, 2 years, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How long do those generally last before there is an issue or before they wear out?
Well, so the manufacturers are aware that in the solar industry, basically nothing gets built or financed unless there's long-term warranties for the materials. So admittedly, floating solar it's certainly a relatively new application in Massachusetts. It's not that new nationwide or worldwide. So we have a number of these questions ourselves for the manufacturer about longevity. I don't know how old their longest operating project is, but their warranty on materials, I believe, is 15 years, which is typical in the solar industry. So I mean, it's a plastic float anchored to the shoreline. And if there's a float failure, it's part of a modular system and it could be replaced if needed or if it was subject to impact.
And it would notify you?
Well, there'd be a monitoring system in place, of course. That's like all our solar projects are. You can monitor them remotely. And over and above that, we would have a routine, physical inspection in place.
Thank you.
What percentage coverage are you looking at?
So the state prohibits any more than 50% of even on these limited water bodies that they're limiting the program to, even those are limited to no more than 50% coverage. So that design reflects kind of a no more than 50%, but it's still preliminary. So we're figuring out that larger reservoir, for instance, we've done the bathymetry on it, and the landowner does obviously control the water levels, so the perimeter of the pond changes throughout the seasons. So the objective of the design will be to put the floating in a place where there's always water, obviously, and to make that most efficient. But long-winded answer to your question, 50%.
So one is 13 acres, and so that would be no more than 6.5 acres.
Yes, sir.
And the other one, what
Roughly-
was the small strip?
It's about
I think
4.
it's a
Oh,
little
4,
over
and that would
4
only be
acres.
2?
Yes, sir.
And it's worth putting it on the 2? Are you putting it on the 2 so that combined you can?
There is some economy of scale there. We're working with the landowner. The landowner's looking for places to host solar projects that don't require cutting down trees or encumbering their farming operations. So we think these are a good, beneficial, additional use of a resource.
Are there mercury in those?
No, ma'am. The plastic floats are inert, chemically inert, and there's no, the solar panels themselves, they don't contain forever chemicals. There are no PFAS. We've asked we'll present this in our application, but we've asked the vendor to provide all of their material data sheets and information on what goes into every component of their system so that the board is aware.
Thank you.
And then, as far as anchoring it to the shore, what does that entail?
Well, so that we haven't finalized the anchoring design and probably won't until further down the road. But I think for the purposes of the board, we're going to show you conceptually like the biggest impact and the type of construction. Screw anchors is typically the solution. Screw the anchors into the shoreline and then attach the mooring cables to the screw anchors.
So steel.
Steel anchors, yes.
Okay.
We'll include as much of that information as we can get with our.
You're learning it just.
Yeah, I mean, we're asking similar questions of these vendors. They're very specialized. And all of that will give you everything that we can get from them. And we'll also include the information from the SMART program too, that talks about sizing and recommendations and, you know, how it works on the state end as well. They have some blocks of information that we can include readily, just so you have it at your fingertips.
And they believe that they'll still be able to pick their bog. I would assume it's going to be water picked, right? So they're going to have enough water when they go to pick this.
Yeah, the mandate from the landowner, sir, is that we can't impact their water, their irrigation operations. We're not going to compromise the amount of water available to them. So
Okay.
we're going to design the project so that at the.
I know that water's a problem at picking time,
Yeah.
so
And the arrays are, you know, with the cabling to the shore, there's flexibility. So because these types of water bodies have water levels that do change, this array also kind of moves with that. So,
Right.
you know, the idea is that there's really no change to the adjacent agricultural operations in terms of being able to access, if they need to put a pump in the water or wherever their existing access is, these guys are going to work with them to work around that. And then, you know, fluctuating water levels also is part of the design criteria, so that these floats can sort of rise and fall with the water levels as well.
okay.
And I'm sure at some point, you know, we'll all take a walk out there and
I'm
be able
sure
to
we'll have a
see it
site
and
walk.
get
Sure
into
we'll
more
have a site
detail
walk.
about this specific site, because every site has its own set
Yeah,
of.
we'll include some pictures of the existing
Yeah.
conditions at these reservoirs with our application. The reservoirs are managed by the landowner as part of their agricultural operation, so.
And I think it would be good when you come back to also bring, you know, an actual working bog that uses this practice, a bog pond. There is none. This would be the first.
Not really. There's a lot of talk about these types of projects where everyone in this area, under the, you know, guidance of the state, is really trying to move away from tree clearing and, you know, other more impactful type project sites. So this has really kind of risen in, you know, discussion amongst developers. I think we're probably going to see more. But it, you know, as Hank said, it's relatively new in this region. So we'll, you know, we'll certainly submit some other examples from other
Yeah,
parts.
there are operating projects, just not in Massachusetts and cranberry farming settings, but we can bring some installation videos and pictures of how it gets built and what it looks
So
like.
we won't get to go on a field trip.
Unfortunately, not unless you want to drive down to New Jersey. I think that's
That's where the closest
that's
one
where
is.
that's where they've just finished one. I think it's 6 megawatts on a drinking water reservoir in New Jersey.
So, question, what kind of, how does this, given that you're now going to be shading over half of, around 50% of this bog, how is that going to affect the growth of the biologics in the area, and how will that affect the water quality that's being run into to feed these cranberries and whatnot?
Yeah, like I don't have like empirical data, sir, to answer that question. We've had these same questions to the vendors, and there's no likely source of a water quality concerns. There's nothing that leaches out of the product, for instance. As far as the shading impact on the bottom, I believe the state took that into account when they limited the coverage to 50%. But we don't believe there will be any detrimental effects to water quality in the water column under the floats. There's no reason that the dissolved oxygen levels would change.
Especially
Well-
in the larger pond, especially with the depth there, it's already, you know, the light penetration on a deeper pond is already much more shallow. So there's not a lot of emergent vegetation and that sort of thing in a deeper pond, even without, you know, anything on top of it.
Mr. Planner.
And that was 50% coverage, but only on a man-made pond, or a
Correct.
human-made pond, not a
Correct.
natural pond.
Correct.
Yeah, state law is man-made.
Yeah, it's prohibited on naturally occurring ponds.
With that also, what about, has there been any significant testing with regards to microplastics coming from the HDPE onto into the water sources?
I'm not aware. That's a question we'll need to
Yeah,
ask.
'cause that's a big emerging thing where they're finding a lot of microplastics and a lot of stuff that they didn't expect to.
How many are there in the area?
I'm only aware of that one small project we were just speaking of. I know there's a number of other projects in this, or maybe a little ahead of this, from a planning standpoint and some.
How long have they been around in general?
I think the first floating projects were built within the past 10 years nationwide. They've been, I think there's some older projects in some European countries and in Japan. But like I said, it is a relatively new application of this technology in the States.
So we'll provide everything we have. Just wanted to get the conversation started.
Well, we recognize that the bylaw that you have doesn't envision this, so we wanted to, be forthcoming about what the proposal was and get some preliminary feedback on what the concerns of the board would be so that we could address them. Probably a lot of them mirror the concerns we have based on our work with the landowner and with the vendor, so we have many of the same questions.
I do like the concept of avoiding the clearing of land,
We agree. It does
especially
seem-
where it's man-made.
Right.
I think it's a good use myself.
And as we said, there are limited options. It's not like you could put this on every pond in
Right.
Carver. It's
Right.
very limited. Yes, so a few years ago, Tom and Hank had met with a representative of DEP Southeast Region to talk about, I guess, confirm the man-made nature of these ponds and jurisdictional status as pertains to the Wetlands Protection Act. And so we have some information on that. We'll probably talk about it more in depth with the Conservation Commission, but happy to submit that information for this board's review as well, just part of the package, just to really kind of reinforce the fact that there's a record that these ponds were constructed out of upland areas at one point in history. So again, we'll put everything in. The thing will probably be this thick, but better to have it all.
Mr. Planner.
And we did have a site walk with the Conservation Commission.
Nope,
We didn't go to this site with the...
different project,
Okay, never mind.
different developer.
Never mind, never mind. Never happened.
Scratch that.
Never happened.
Planning to.
Yes, we will.
All right.
Right. I haven't pulled it off yet.
Yeah.
Last question for me. You'll have a completed ANRAD from the Concom saying that this is a man-made pond, there's no issues.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
We did do an ANRAD and we have an ORAD. There are some wetlands in the wooded area down by Federal Road where the interconnection point is. So we filed an ANRAD a while ago and we have an ORAD that confirms the vegetated wetlands down in that spot. And that was sort of helping us line up that interconnection route as well. As far as the rest of the site, we'll either do a preliminary ANRAD or we'll have the request to confirm the jurisdictional status of the resource areas as part of the notice of intent. So one path or the other.
As man-made?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone really wants that in writing just to make sure that it's following the protocol so it's a viable project.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time
you.
and input.
Yep.
Are you also here for Fosdick Road Solar
Yes.
dual use layout?
Yes. conveniently packaged in one evening.
Fosdick.
Okay. Different part of town, different type of project. I'll pass this around to you just again for orientation.
Now this is, you'll be able to pick this bog, but also build solar on it.
Yes. So this is what we're referring to preliminarily as Fosdick Road Solar. This is a proposed dual-use project on 2 pieces of existing cranberry bog owned by Johnson Brothers Cranberries. On this site, this is for Connie, we have an ANRAD that has confirmed upland bogs, wetland bogs, everything in this whole portion of the site. And we went through this with Conservation Commission, really just to help determine, the history of what was done out here. And so the 2 pieces that you see on the board where solar is proposed here and here would keep the bogs in production. It's the raised panels and spread out rows to allow for equipment passage. The town, Middleborough Carver town line is here, but the work is all in Carver. And those 2 bogs are considered upland bogs, so built from upland materials. So not a lot of deep peat deposits in these areas, a bit more structurally sound in terms of anchoring and that sort of thing. I know this board has seen these types of projects before, so this isn't quite as new as the floating concept. But again, since we were going to be here anyway, we thought we'd mention this project. It's been sort of in development for quite some time. It's gone through several iterations. No battery storage proposed at this point, and it's really just limited to the 2 arrays with interconnection on Purchase Street.
Correct.
Purchase Street, towards the top of the page there.
We'll flag this screening.
Yep. So one thing we did know on this site, because this is a large bog complex, bog and water complex, that there are a couple of areas on both Fosdick Road and Purchase Street where there's a small break in the existing tree line. So we put together a preliminary sightline plan just showing, and again, we'll submit a final version of this, but just to give you an idea of the analysis that we're looking at right now. These are a couple photographs, one from Purchase Street, one from Fosdick Road, and kind of where the points are where there's a break in the trees, and just kind of showing this up from across the bog and how far away that distance is from each of the streets. The good news is we're almost 1,000 feet away where the edge of the solar array would be from Purchase, and over 1,500 feet away from Fosdick. But because it is open in a couple of these spots, we wanted to make sure that we're being, careful about making sure everything is screened appropriately. So this will be part of the discussion and submission as well, and I'm sure. Once again, we'll have a site visit and we can see it with our own eyes, but wanted to just provide a little bit of context with that.
So just just a few other points. So again, no tree clearing, no need for new access. There's an existing bog road for the complex with a paved apron that we would protect with a riprap during construction, but no significant site. There's no proposed site grading or regrading or tree clearing or significant infrastructure work. So it's a relatively straightforward install an elevated array on these 2, I think it's about 20 acres, the 2 upland bogs combined. And we've been working with the landowner for 4 years now to kind of like tweak the design and to make sure he's comfortable equipment access and his ability to farm, kind of relocate some irrigation lines prior to construction so that everything works in harmony. But the game plan is for that project to kind of live in harmony with his cranberry operations for 20 years.
And his plan is to remain the farmer on this
I'm,
property.
for one, very happy to hear its dual purpose.
Yeah, I should have let off with this. We have, my company, Tom and I, two local guys, we've got 2 operating projects here in Carver, so we've got some experience with your predecessors, and I know that concerns back, at least then, aside and over and above from just like typical engineering concerns, mostly it revolved around visibility to the neighborhood and character of the neighborhood. So that's why we recognize that there are a couple spots along 2 public ways where you could get a glimpse into the site, and I think they can be readily addressed with some strategic screening. But
How
outside
close
of
is this to the Middleborough border?
It's close.
yeah, the
The
Middleborough.
black line there is the
Yeah.
Middleborough.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, none of the proposed work is in Middleborough,
Okay,
but the lot, the line
that's
runs
what
through the lot.
that's why I asked, because I thought
Yeah, those 2.
it goes right through the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his property is partially in Middleborough, partially in
Okay.
Carver. But we're keeping everything on the Carver side of the line just for.
I think he himself lives in Middleborough.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, right over the line.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
We're also showing the 200-foot setback on this. And so
What, as far as location is concerned, what might be the closest house to this?
there's one up here on 30th Street that's probably the closest.
Well, yeah. You have the area?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
A little easier to see sometimes on the aerial.
just.
So, yeah, the house that lot is probably the closest, but there's a really extensive existing vegetation. Excuse me, I have a family issue that I have to do. But the butter that probably has the most potential visibility into the site is this one on the north side of Purchase Street, because you can see across these bogs. I mean, it's 1,000 feet or so.
Is that from Middleborough or for
I think that
Carver?
house is technically in Middleborough, you're right.
All right.
sir.
So I'm-
But
I'm
closest
just-
to Carver.
I think it probably would be good to make sure that they're aware of it in case they want to come to the meeting.
Yeah, they'll be on the 300-foot abutter list. We go
Okay.
into adjacent towns with that. We don't stop at the town line. So
Okay.
they'll be notified.
And then
Good.
there's some folks here along Fosdick Road, on the opposite side of Fosdick, that are in Carver, that, like I said, that's what they're looking at now, but there are some gaps in those trees that we propose to fill in.
Okay.
I personally am going to want to see the screening limited to whatever's required for access to the site, so screen everything else, and of course, underground for electric.
I didn't understand, I didn't realize that was a requirement, so obviously it's required to do it, but I think we had proposed it anyways underground all the way up.
Perfect.
We can keep the neighbors happy with screening. It's really, it's important.
We want to be good neighbors.
Yes, yes.
And the landowner does too.
And the landowner does too.
He's still going to be living and working here, so,
He's going to actually have to see it,
yeah,
I would imagine.
good point, yes. And,
He actually, with our screening proposal, he won't be able to see it from his house either.
Yeah, so it really is far away then, if he
It's-
won't be able to see it.
It's 1,000 feet away, it's clear, so you can't, I mean, if you're
It's
looking
wide
for it, you'll be
open.
able to see it.
I honestly think it's in my backyard, but I'm not in a butter.
oh, okay.
Oh.
It doesn't come out, it doesn't come all the way back to Forest,
Correct.
does it?
No. I don't think that,
I think it's on
I think it goes out to Stone Street.
the far side of Meadow Street.
It might be behind Meadow,
Yeah.
yeah.
Meadows the street to the west.
Meadow's the development, Great Meadow.
Yeah, you guys are on the west side of that, so I don't think.
yeah, I think
I don't think it
that-
goes down as far as me.
Right.
No.
Yeah. This would be a good site to do a site visit for, just to get, it's a huge site. You can see the existing tree line and the very few spots where you can see into the site, so.
And I have not been there.
No,
Like the other one.
you
I
have
was
not been to
No,
either of
I'm
these
not.
sites
I know nothing.
yet. Yeah.
All right. Since you're the only one in the audience, do you have any questions, Miss Judy? It open, I'm always happy to hear what the public has to say.
Thank you.
All right. All right then. John, anything? All right then. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, appreciate the time and the input.
I do not have any planning board member notes. Anybody else?
I think King Richard's Fair has Carver Day on August 31st.
Saturday?
This Saturday?
August 31st, whatever day that is. And then on
Wow.
September 1st, I believe they have heavily discounted tickets for a wide range of individuals,
Yes.
possibly including veterans, but off the top of my head, I don't recall. There was a substantial list for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Voting has started, so
I was
Get out and
hoping you
vote.
would get that in there.
yep.
Isn't there a primary September 3rd? No,
September
it's-
3rd is primary day.
Yeah,
Yes.
get out there.
But starting Saturday, last Saturday, started the early voting here at Town Hall. So you can come in here to Town Hall, do your early voting, or wherever else you're
Super
watching it
Tuesday.
from. And then Tuesday is the official day over at the gym.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Sedillo.
I'm good.
Mr. Planner.
I've drafted the barley decisions. I got them out to the board. I've got them up here to clean up any typos or things like that. And with that, we can sign them and send them in. All three were denied, and the first one was withdrawn.
The ones in front of us we can sign?
Actually, I'm going to hit the print key because those have got some notes, some marginal notes in just in case I needed them, but they're all ready on the printer. Yeah, so lot one was strictly, the board voted to accept the request of their withdrawal. Relatively simple. It's not even a decision per se. There's no requirement, there's no appeal on someone withdrawing their decision. In the case of lot two, that is the full-on decision. I went into the tape in order to make sure I captured the reasons, because when you deny something, you have to give a reason. So essentially, I parroted the conversation on the screen and plugged them into the planning board's decision.
So instead of yes and no, you did aye and nay?
Yeah, I think I typically do aye and nay.
Okay.
So any questions, any comments on what you've got in front of you for lot two?
I noticed on, I guess for A&R Lot 2, the others you have me down as abstain. So I didn't know if you wanted, for consistency,
Yeah, I think I just plugged that in a second ago, so that's abstained.
Okay, so you have copies for us to sign, or do you
I'm
want
gonna-
us signing these?
If anything else was coming up, I was gonna fix them, so I'm gonna hit the print key and bring all these back up for you guys to sign.
For us to sign tonight?
Correct.
you gotta take the draft off of it.
Yep, I've gotten, pulled those off of those, while we were hearing about the solar miracles that people are doing these days.
Yeah. I just wonder how much that's gonna increase our electric bill.
All right, so, anything else on lot 2? So, lot 3, I'm gonna say, here we go, lot 3. Similarly there,
I would like to take the opportunity to say that we are looking for an associate member
please do.
in the resignation of Mr. McComb.
Is there anything else with lot 3?
I'd prefer if you use my full name.
Did I thought I saw that somewhere earlier. Yeah, there it is. I saw it on one of them.
It looks like it's on all of them.
I do a lot of cutting and pasting.
No worries. Signature section is right.
Yeah.
You must have got a different one than me.
It's on the back page. The first sentence on all of them is on the motion of Connie Shea.
Yeah, I think I fixed one of them, but didn't get to the rest of them.
It's a good Irish name.
Yes, it didn't help going through to Ireland with two of us on the passenger manifest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wreaked a little havoc on the check-in counters and security a little bit. So.
Oh, wow.
I got my Connie's as Cornelius's. Alrighty, so 3 and lot 4. Anything on lot 4?
I don't have anything.
Same thing on that one for Connie.
He's already
Oh, we
way
got it
ahead.
already?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it's amazing how far ahead I can get when people point out all the things I do wrong, so. It's a system, proofreaders.
And Eversource is coming on the 10th?
Eversource is scheduled to be here for the 10th. I will confirm with them as well. You see on the screen, we have our housing production plan survey up for two reasons. One is that we're closing the survey with Labor Day. We currently have 137 responses. It'd be great to have more, so tell your friends and neighbors, tell our vast whistling audience. You've got essentially the weekend if anybody else wants to do the survey. It's on our website as well. And the folks from Serpent have asked to come in and give us an update on the housing production plan and some of the draft goals and things like that. So we're looking at having them scheduled for the 10th as well. So we've got driving school, sort of comparable to the Good Bird, somebody opening a business in an existing property. Lot 2B, Peter Sprague, and housing production discussion, and Eversource for our September 10th meeting. And with that, I'm going to go grab those copies off the printer.
There are no minutes.
There are no minutes. We don't need Mr. Bod for me to ask for a motion for adjournment, right?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gatsky?
Aye.
Aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
And Kevin Robinson says aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.